Welcome to Superconnector Stories, episode 8. This is a fun one. We have a great visitor who schlepped all the way from New Jersey, right, Amira?
This is a special one, yeah.
Yeah. So, Maria Avgitidis, everyone practicing? Maria.
Maria
just
Avgitidis.
blended names. You guys got married. Maria Avgitidis is an amazing matchmaker with a Greek background, and she's a fourth-generation matchmaker and a first-time author.
Yes.
And she's coming to talk to us about her new book. And I think this episode is really going to give us some inspiration on how to not take crap from people and really get clear on what we want and how to get it when it comes to dating and love. Right?
Okay. I'm just learning what this is about, so this is great. I'm like, yeah,
pleasure.
that sounds great. I'm happy to be a part of that.
I mean, when I talk to you, Maria, like you're the real deal. And I think that you inspire women to really get clear on how they communicate to other people about like, no, this is my line in the sand and this is what I deserve. And here I am.
Really, what I took from your book is, yes, it's certainly about the powerful parts of matchmaking and the value of hiring a matchmaker, but it is really a guide at looking at yourself and identifying within yourself and being able then to articulate that to yourself, other people, and your community in order to even harness those resources and have it all come back to you.
Yes, it's so true.
Oh, I love that. That's what you took from it, because that was the hope.
It's
right?
really a self-guide.
Yeah, no, it's because I think sometimes people always tell me I want to date someone who has my values. And then you ask them like, okay, well, what are your values? And blank, and so I think what I try to establish in chapter 4 and 5 of the book is, okay, well, let's talk about the values that you're looking for by talking about what you value, and then I split it into those 5 pillars to make it more granular, because I think that's what it usually gets people tripped up. Like for instance, a major value for a lot of people, and it should be, is the word respect, but it's not just, the respect isn't this one word that encompasses everything. It's in a lot of things. So in the compatibility pillars that I put in the book, respect is seen in both how do you respect and how does someone respect you physically or spiritually or intellectually or emotionally or financially. So the respect goes in all these, it contorts based on the context of what we're looking for and how we want to live our lives. And of course, in the partner that we want to share that life with.
Yeah, the book I think builds really beautifully on the fact that even just in a parallel that technology and the movement of culture has moved us through to filters, right? And yet that doesn't take into consideration or really judge your values, or, it's asking you about the things that are demographic or things that are genetic or things that are about your appearance, but don't measure and gauge the things that are truly, and just in parallel to what you're saying. So when you ask somebody, what does respect mean to you? It's not a specific action. It's being able to identify what that actually means in your life. And then how do you seek that? How do you match that? So I think the book really breaks down actionable steps you take to getting there.
Yeah. And so we're having a conversation without you here.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay.
It's just really
I'm enjoying this process.
I love it.
It's what I took from it.
But I think one of the things that I also didn't want to do when I was writing it is I didn't want to just like lecture people. And that's where all the storytelling comes in.
It's really personal.
Yeah. And so the storytelling that is essentially the whole spine of the book, and then the dating advice and the social commentary and the psychology knowledge is like infused into it. But it shows you in play of like, okay, here are my values. Here are other people's values. Here's how it lays out. So for instance, let's go back to respect, and let's talk about respect and spirituality. I talk about an example where, I go to church every Sunday, and I go to church every Sunday because I don't really consider myself religious as much as I really love my community and the people that I get to check in with these people every Sunday, right? Even if it's just for 20 minutes during coffee hour, that means a lot to me, and it's very grounding for me. And
that's your third place.
It's my third place. No, but it's my proper third place. And it's also my kid's third place. And so when my husband first met me and we first got married, before our kids could participate in like Greek school and Sunday school and Greek dance, I would ask him like, hey, are you coming to church with me this Sunday? And, there's couples that I know that fight over this, where it's like, we're going together or we're not going at all. And he'd be like, no, not this week. Okay, cool. Bye. And like, I would just leave. And no one's upset. No one's mad because I have to respect his choice of how he participates in the faith that we both actually share, right? Because sometimes people get so stuck on, especially in matchmaking, we need to have the same religion. We need to have the same religion. We need to have the same religion. Just because someone shares the same religion or faith as you does not mean the same level of participation.
That's right.
Right?
And what that
That's
necessarily means to your mother or somebody else may
Right.
not be the same to you.
Exactly.
So it's what does that actually mean in your world?
Yeah.
And looking at that personally.
And then what's interesting is the last, I want to say 3 years, how much my husband has kind of changed. Is 180 now. Now he goes to church with me on Sundays because he started to see the value in the community of seeing his buddies every Sunday for coffee hour right after church. And, just kind of having a place for peace too. My husband was suffering from catastrophic anxiety, and his therapist told him, like, you need to learn how to meditate. And both my husband and I think that's probably what we bonded over. We struggle with that. But at church, where you don't have your devices on you, you're standing.
It's your form.
It's in ancient Greek, so you kind of understand what's being said, but not really.
Almost meditative.
It's meditative, and you've got the chants playing and the incense. And that's where my husband was like, okay, some people go to yoga every Tuesday. I go to church every Sunday. This is where I meditate. And I think that's really nice to see that participation. But again, it goes back to
we love
respect.
George.
Yeah.
But also it goes back to if you're not open to defining and redefining what those words mean, because I think, again, what the book does is it also deconstructs what we've been traditionally told.
Yep.
Right? Whether it's generational, whether it's societal, whether it's cultural, what that should mean to us, back to the word respect, right?
Right.
But how it actually applies in our life, if we're willing to go back and say, well, what should that word look like for me?
Mm-hmm.
And are you willing to deconstruct what it may have been defined by your mother or defined by your other forces in your life? And then once you're able to take those steps internally, then you're able to find the proper match. Because if you're always trying to match to those other constructs, you're always going to be led astray.
I agree.
It's true.
Yeah.
You want to be a matchmaker?
Well, no, I just think that that's what the book deconstructed for somebody like me, because I think you go into something like this or a book like this thinking you know the dating world or thinking you have a handle on some of this, but you don't necessarily, you don't know what you don't see, right? You don't know what you don't know, or what is so conditioned inside of you that you're not aware of it. And
or
what's
what's actually being kept away from you too.
Right. What's not even available.
Yeah.
Right? And I just think that there's a construct, and maybe in the way you organize the book, that for someone like me, it was really a beautiful way of sort of helping me deconstruct some of my prior understanding as well.
I mean, one of the things, first of all, I love that you're in a relationship and you took something away from the book, because that's actually been something that I've been trying to explain to people. There's a lot of people that you think are your
audience target.
Your audience. No. Like, I'm talking about like people within your own community where you're like, oh, I wrote a book. Oh, that's nice. I'm like, no, like this is your friend wrote a book.
Right.
And I've been trying to be like, this book is good for married people too, because we all need closure from some past or some familial conversation we had that like triggered us and influenced the way we decide our future. And I think that in the way the book is constructed, where it takes you from like, okay, let's talk about our current dating reality. Let's acknowledge the history that we are sitting upon. And then it kind of goes into like, okay, let's talk about your values. Now let's talk about how you're going to date. Let's talk about where you're going to find this person. Let's talk about your last breakup. Let's talk about what makes a relationship actually work. Like, you kind of work through this through the storytelling, of course. But it's, for me, if you're reading this, if you've ever felt hung up on an ex, this is your detox.
So it's funny
there's
that
something else to it, though. There's something about, we talk to people who are single or daters all the time, and they don't feel true support from their married friends, their friends in a relationship. And there's this gap.
like
there's
that
a way
chapter's closed.
that chapter's closed for them.
The
And then they
relationship building
use-
chapter is closed.
That's right. And they use that single person to be like, oh my God, like tell me everything, so that they can like feel a little bit alive through their
entertainment.
stories and get entertainment. And
They'll be divorced in 5 years,
and that's not powerful or productive. And I think that in order to solve this crisis of loneliness, I think there's like a union that needs to happen, right?
Yeah. It's so funny you mentioned it, because I was just on I was just being interviewed on a big channel, and this is actually something that I talked about, even though I don't think the hosts actually got it. This was on Fox and Friends. Anyway,
Here
but
you are,
and here I am.
so famous.
But I was trying to explain to them, which is like dating was never meant to be something we're supposed to do alone.
Exactly.
Right? Chapter 1, it goes into how everyone's history of our ancestors dating. And by ancestors, I'm not talking even about like your great-great-grandmother. I'm talking about your own parents. People were involved. Their friends were involved. Their parents were meddling. Their aunts and uncles were talking. Everyone was
Offering a
invited.
connection.
Yeah, but everyone was invited also to the round table to talk about this. And then what happened was that suddenly that round table gets disintegrated because we have a computer in our pocket that allows us to, we don't even have to log in to a desktop device and look through profiles. We're always online. And so I think it's kind of like a chicken egg scenario, right? I think the egg here is the technology became convenient, right? And we all went into our own little silos. But then you have people that are single, that are on their couch, swiping. And that's for an entire new generation, that's the only way they know how to date. And then the people that got coupled up and married, they look at their friends as entertainment because they didn't get to do that swipe stuff. So they're like, oh, let me see what you do. Let me see what you do, right? But it's actually, I do blame a lot of the isolation and loneliness that people feel and a lot of that dating fatigue on married people or in people that are in relationships, because you still have to hang out with your friends.
Yes.
Just because they're single, that doesn't mean, they're
still community.
They're lepers or something. Yeah. You still have to host the barbecues where you invite those people over, not to set them up, but to meet new people.
Well, also, I thought it was so interesting is just a little dating advice tip that I took from you. I think you were making it a direct tip, but it's not even you look at the relationships around you, and if you're around married couples that are modeling good married interactions and behaviors, you then also are able to integrate that into your own manifest and understand what that looks like.
Right.
And then seek it and find it and then ask those people who their friends are.
That's right.
And then, that's how it becomes a community build. And I just think that that's the other piece to integrating these two environments. If you want to achieve that, then you have to become a part of that environment.
Somebody said something to me really interesting. She told me about when she was going through a divorce and she noticed which couples really pushed them away versus still brought them in. And she was like, the couples that brought us in and stayed friends with us individually were the couples who had a good marriage.
And I think that has to do with how we acknowledge our connection within our relationship, in the sense that if I'm pushing you away, it means I might know something's going awry in that relationship, and I don't want you to see it because then I have to kind of
those dynamics.
I have to then speak on it, and I don't want to speak on it, so I'd rather just kind of ignore you.
You don't know your place in it.
Yeah, and I think that's totally valid in terms of the people that I remember when I was single, what I did to meet my spouse, and this is the number one advice I would give to anyone. If you take anything away from today's recording, it's this. Tell all of your friends the next time you're hanging out with your other friends, I need you to invite me. Because that's what I did, right? I told two people that who I admired to hell their relationships. I said, next time to their men, I was like, next time you're out with your friends, I need you to invite me. I didn't ask them to set me up. I didn't ask them, do you know any single men?
Put yourself in the environment, especially in this online and post-COVID isolation.
Right. Like if I'm your friend, you're going to invite me out with your friends.
And if you like that friend, also the point, when you're online, almost the decision fatigue and having too many choices. If you have a friend whose personality and values are similar or values that you want to match, you already have a self-selected group of people. If it's somebody, and you're not dealing with thousands of images on demographics that don't matter, you're already dealing with a cultivated group of people that have been selected potentially within your realm of
and that's
match.
how people met. That's how people met
organically.
Prior to 2012.
Started with
that's
your
how
party.
it is, right? Yeah. So that's how it used to be, and I think there is this sort of, it's not me being nostalgic to go back to it. I think we just have to be a little bit more mindful of how we participate in our own communities.
How we connect.
And create those communities. I was recently talking to a colleague of ours. He's not a matchmaker, but he's in the space. He's a service provider. And, he said, if you started over again, what would you do different? And it's like, I don't know if I would do anything different because I feel very confident in what I did back then. But one of the things I do tell new matchmakers is you have to cultivate your own community.
Mm.
There's a lot of people, I think, in our industry who fully rely on having like other matchmakers creating community instead of building their own community. And I remember even using you as an example. I'm like, look at Michal. She's in Philly doing events, meeting single people, creating her community in Philadelphia. Like, that is what a matchmaker is. Like, if I look at what my grandmothers did, is wherever they went, they built a community. I think that is what people should be hiring us for, is to be that community builder and seeker. Instead of, I think some clients might hire us because they think we're another version of a Starbucks barista. But
Yes.
yeah,
It's a problem.
it's a problem. It's a balance.
Yeah.
The true problem is just when people come to you from all walks of life and they're like, who do you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, there's so much magic to what we do because it's community building, it's connection, it's relationship, it's getting myself invited, it's inviting them, it's everything. And they're just like, who do you know? But look at my whole life. You're going to find them right in 3 months. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's not
What
power.
you do. Yeah.
We just got a new client in Springfield, Missouri. And before we sent him a contract, I thought, oh, yeah, Springfield, that's near St. Louis. And I was actually thinking of Springfield, Illinois, which is closer to St. Louis. Springfield, Missouri is like 3.5 hours. I was like, oh my
Never
God.
been.
Yeah. But we just took him on. And what was interesting is we actually already had women in our database that were from Springfield. And I don't think all of these women are matches for him. But what we did was we picked up the phone and we called every single woman that lived in that vicinity within a 30-mile radius and was like, let me tell you about this amazing client I just got. Do you have any friends that are currently available to date who would be interested in someone like this? I didn't say any other demo. I wasn't saying she needs to be this height, this. No, that's nonsense. Let me see who's available. And then, maybe 3 more women join. Okay, are they matches? No. Let me call them now and have a conversation and say, okay, here's what I'm at. Do you have any more friends? Because, if one single woman, they might know 3 more. So we're already building like our network of women in Springfield, Missouri for this client. And he knows that I can only set him up with, because he's not open to a national search.
Sure.
And I don't think he needs to be. But I can only set you up with someone that I have access to too, right? So I think sometimes, and I mentioned this, I think, in chapter 2 of the book, where it's, I think for a lot of matchmakers, especially since we get paid in money and not goats and eggs, like my grandmothers used to be.
Exchanges.
Yeah, the bartering and dowry exchanges. But there's definitely a conversation where you have to balance the wish list with the reality check.
That's right.
And listen, some clients, they don't care about the reality check. They tell you, I just want the wish list. It's okay if I'm still single in 6 months.
And where their wish list is derived from, where they think their values and what's on that list and whether those are of actual value.
Yeah.
You have to go back and say, really, is the height really the top, consideration on the list? Like even if it's achievable and it's a good list, it's like some of the time it's like the things are even on there still.
I think some clients too, you have to, you just have to be real with them on the obstacles. Like I have a client right now who lives in a county that is extremely red.
Political views.
Like 90-10. It can't get redder, right? I think even Trump had a rally there. And, he participates in cannabis use. And he only wants to meet women that are also voting red, that are very thin, and that also smoke cannabis. And I'm like, in that same county. And I'm like, I don't know if this person exists because, frankly, I don't think a lot of people who might smoke cannabis recreationally
fit otherwise demographic.
Will be more open-minded like that, and then also vote conservatively.
That's what I mean. Like the demographic he's looking for is a narrow
it's just getting narrow.
And then you think about the community you're looking in for demographics of locality, and the practicality of it gets less and less possible.
Yeah.
Did you tell him about how George didn't go to church and now goes to church?
Well, what's interesting with him is that we've been working on it and we found a way around it. He's not even we don't even consider him he's like a great client. We have no problem with him. But what made him great was
still very narrow.
The ask is extremely narrow, and he knows it. And I think that was what makes him great, is that when he came to us, he after we started searching, we're like, hey, we're getting a lot of pushback from women who vote conservatively and okay with cannabis use. Like, we're not seeing the same that we would see with, like, if you decided to date a liberal woman,
Right.
Which I don't think he's a match for. So
Right.
like,
In his
why
red
it doesn't
state
even
wants
matter,
it.
right?
Right.
And what was interesting in that conversation for us was how open he was in listening to the feedback. And he goes, okay, well, when you find him, no worries. I understand this hard. Some clients are not that forgiving.
And that probably gives you a
They're not that
temperature, though,
nice.
on whether or not it's a client you can work with.
Sometimes you don't know, though. We don't.
But it's just it's a temperature check.
Yeah,
it is a
check
temperature
for sure.
check.
But, we always ask clients before they start with us, before we even give them a contract, what obstacles do you think
You may have.
I'm going to have in matching you? And I just want to see if there's any self-awareness.
Awareness, yeah. It's not the matter of can you work. You work with them. You're also a coach and a mentor, and you can resource them to other resources to help them along the way.
Right.
But are they willing and open to change, and are they open to some of these other suggestions along the way?
Yeah.
It's funny because like when you ask them that, and sometimes they go, well, I'm really picky. You're like, well, this is not going to be fun at all.
What is
Yeah, that's what you
Where's
think
the fun and picky?
obstacles.
what does picky mean?
If that's the thing that you're saying in obstacles, when I ask that question, I get really sad because you're blaming your picker instead of telling me what I can see is
What
going
the
to be
actual
the
obstacles are, yeah.
right? Because I know what they are already.
You can read between those
I
lines.
can read between the lines, but based on everything we just talked about for the last 2 hours.
Sure.
You throwing to me like, well, I'm picky. It's like, okay, is this what I'm going to hear
It's
the
just
rest
a
of the
self-awareness
contract
piece,
now?
as you say.
Can't help but I'm picky.
Can't help.
Can't
I don't
help
like
but
her.
I'm
I'm
picky.
picky. And I'm like, okay, well, they have to also want to date you.
Can we make that word?
Means you haven't done the work. It's
Scarlet
very
letter. Like we need to make the word picky like really, because I think people are like, oh, why are you single? And they're like, oh, because I'm picky, and then move along.
Means you haven't done the work. You haven't done the internal work. You haven't asked
That's
yourself
right.
the right questions and come up with the right,
It also
explanations for
changes
yourself.
vastly too. Like I have certain clients that are billionaires with a B. And I don't think those clients are surrounded by no people. They're all yes people.
Yes.
And now I'm going to be the no person for them. And that's like
Love that.
that's a huge struggle for us sometimes, where I'm like,
Where do you fall in that person's life? Yeah.
yeah, because,
How do they take feedback?
every person that you want to go out with, it's not that that match doesn't want to go out with you. It's that sometimes I don't have access to that person.
Sure. They have to be in your database, right? They have to be resourceable.
They have to be resourceable. I had one of these particular clients, he only wanted to date, he has a crush on a cover model of Vogue.
And that's like his, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll try. And I'm like, she's like 3 million followers. How? She probably has like 18 handlers surrounding her.
Just to get to her, yeah.
Right. How am I supposed to access her? How am I supposed to send her a message that, like, the bad actor matchmakers haven't already sent to her? So I'm already, in her eyes.
Mm-hmm. What number DM are you in the list? Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. And to tell her what? Oh,
what can I hand her that's going to
listen, I think my client is a catch. I think my client's a fantastic catch. But how do I get to that conversation with her?
Mm-hmm.
And so, having that conversation with him, he's like, well, you could find a way. And I'm like, not unless I get invited to like the photo shoot, and so
or your next door neighbor's the manager's daughter,
Yeah, I've started connecting more with I've become friends with a celebrity makeup artist, so I think he might be my next.
Well, that's how you
network.
Matchmakers actually work. You're networkers.
Yeah,
you find your
I'm
way
do.
in the door. I just, as a peripheral watcher, this is what I've noticed.
Some matchmakers, Mahal
if you
Mahal's
don't
a bit different.
have the access in, let's be honest, my viewpoint as a non-matchmaker is Michal and her matchmaker colleagues.
Her little tribes.
Right, her tribe of colleagues. So what I have been able to watch and observe is exactly that, is that if the access point's not there, there's creative thinking into how to get the access point and if it's achievable. But from I think a healthy boundaries standpoint, if it's truly not achievable, it's not achievable. But
even if
you have to ask yourself the right questions and think creatively sometimes.
But I have to always remind my clients too, like, okay, I got access to them. Now what?
Well, that's my point.
Like,
you still have to have a game plan.
She might not even be available to date.
Yep.
You don't know what her last boyfriend did.
Yeah. And
you don't know if she's straight.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
And you have five, maybe 5 sentences at most that someone's going to read. What are you going to put on that 5 sentences? It's going to set your one DM apart,
I don't feel like I can't make people like you. You need to make people like you.
But even just to get the door
And
open,
you need to like
get the attention.
That's right.
Yeah. In a case like you're explaining. Yeah.
Okay. So we kind of jumbled all over with this episode because we went
cool.
right into your book and it's all good. But Maria, can we talk about how we first met, which I'm a little bit nervous for, but let's do
You
it.
text me about this, and I'm like,
Sure,
I just
let's do
went IDK. I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to
What do you want to talk about? Okay,
Okay.
so I'm really fascinated by first impressions and how people receive each other. So that's been every single episode. And sometimes it's love at first sight and sometimes it isn't. And I think
Because really this podcast is about relationships
It's
as a
about
whole
relationships.
and how people connect and, what level of truth and honesty are in those relationships that I think elaborate into building them. So
that's true. And I love you. I do.
Yeah.
We have a very interesting relationship.
What a preface.
I know. I know
You can
where
also
this is
say,
going.
you can also say, I love you too, but okay.
yeah, I know. No. She knows what she knows.
So I went to my first, global love, international matchmaking conference ever, because before that I was at a large company.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about any of the matchmakers. I just bought a ticket and I was like, I'm going.
Right.
So I had no idea who you were.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, in the moment it wasn't okay because I remember that
Well,
I got there.
You want to
I wore a cute little pink. I wore a cute little pink dress. I remember the first thing that you did when you saw me was you checked the tag on my dress, and you were like, "Yes," and you were just like, "Oh, I was gonna wear that too," and you were like, "Did you get that from blah 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 blah?" And I was like, I just shrunk into myself.
Why? What's wrong with what I did?
No, it's a fashion. I think it's cute, but
I think I was just. It made me.
I guess you were shocked.
I think I was shocked
because you're the director of
forward.
the.
Well, you didn't know who I was either, so you just like a random person just came up to your dress.
The tag on
Is that
my
what
dress.
happened?
Well, just you're in a room full of people, and you're like, okay, this is my first. Okay, and then I just remember that in
I don't
different.
remember any of this. This is fantastic.
I remember it all, Maria. In just little moments of you seeing me and you seeing I remember I would pipe up and say things because I'm not a very afraid person to say my opinion. And I said some things, and you were like, who do you think you are? That's the vibe I got from you. I was like, well, I think this and this. And you were like, you didn't earn your place yet here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you remember. You remember that feeling.
I do remember that feeling.
Big
I remember meeting you. I remember my first impression of Michal.
Oh, what's your first impression? I would love to hear.
And I'm okay with honesty, by the way.
Yeah, we love you.
I don't remember that interaction with your clothes, but I'm also not surprised to do that all the time to people.
With fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's a nice length. Where am I going to buy this?
Where am I going to get this? Yeah.
I clocked in very quickly that you were extremely enthusiastic to be at this conference, mainly because you came from a different company that didn't really, I don't want to say allow you, but they had a very different environment back then. So, we don't meet a lot of matchmakers from that previous company that you worked at. So I was like, okay, a new matchmaker
seeking autonomy.
Seeking out time to do this. Yay. But another thing that isn't talked about a lot in our industry is that 95%, maybe 98% of matchmakers who start their own companies collapse within 18 months.
Sure.
And it's not for lack of finding matches. It's for lack of knowing how to run a business.
Sure.
And Michal was just so excited that some of the things, I can't recall what you were saying, but I remember thinking
maybe a little naive.
That's not real. That's naive. Yeah, it was naive
at this stage.
Not you were talking about, you wanted honesty, so I'll say it right now.
Go for it.
What I remember is you were talking about who your matchmaking service is going to be for back then, which is not what it is now. But you were saying, my matchmaking service is going to be for this, 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 this. And I remember either I said it to your face or I said it to another colleague, and I go, her matchmaking business is going to be whoever pays her first.
Right.
The
practicality of it all hasn't sunk in yet.
Because right now you're in Fantasyland. And Fantasyland feels so good. There's so much hope in Fantasyland.
And dopamine up there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I have given a lot of time and patience to new matchmakers who disappear 6 months later. And then you never hear from them again. And then it's they're kind of in and out, but they're not really in. Meanwhile, they have no problem asking me for matches. They
And
have
that
no problem-
enthusiasm all looks the same in the beginning.
Oh,
right.
sure,
So you have
sure.
to earn.
So I think she had
vetting a
come
little.
to this, and then, you know, I am also a very hard personality to have a first impression with. I know that about myself. You know, I think most people hate me when they first meet me, or they think I hate them and then they reflect it back. But really, I'm from New Jersey. And
You're
I
an East
think
Coast
for people from Jersey know what that means. We're just like, we don't have a lot of time to waste. Right? Everyone's going somewhere. And it's not in the New York City sort of way where people just don't even look at you. I think in New Jersey, there's just a different way of communicating, which is very direct. But B, it's like, all right, another matchmaker who is talking about this fantasy land that's going to happen that
Is a lot
let's see if
harder
it's
to
going to happen.
achieve
It's
than
really
they
hard
think.
to get to attract that kind of client that, would be her perfect life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At the end of the day, you have to run a business. That's what it is. Now, this obviously the story ends with a lot of love. Okay. So
Sure, I hope so.
I kept like some distance, but I was also very curious about Michal. And then Michal did this really incredible thing where I felt like she kind of like listened to like myself and maybe Bonnie and Amy Van Doren, like the people that kind of huddled around her that first conference.
Really
And
interested in feedback. Just as a friend peripherally at the time, just hearing about the conferences, she was just wanting mentorship from you guys. I knew your names before
yeah.
even, ever being a part of any of this, just because she was so interested in how you guys ran things, just wanting to
Right.
learn.
Right.
You know,
And so I think what was really interesting
I
is
don't want to speak
like,
for you, but that was my
or
impression.
however that impression went the first week, then the rest of the months following, I was like Michal curious in the sense that like, oh, what's she doing? Let me Google her.
Because she was so curious about you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, but also you could see her starting to put the building blocks of a business.
And entrepreneurial work together.
Listen,
Yeah.
our industry is filled to the brims with hobbyists, people with wealthy husbands
Who want to try to do this and make it work, but have no idea the business end of any structure.
No, of course not. And so I think, and I think maybe now Michal 4 years later might
Has maybe a
understand where I was
different
when I
opinion.
first met you, now that you've met some of those people too. Anyway, the following year, she comes to the same conference, totally different person.
she
At some
learned.
point, I remember being at the beach with you, with a few other matchmakers that we're very close with and we love. And we were all like, you're a different person. You're amazing. Like, where was this person last year? And I think you were kind of having like also your come to Jesus moment, even though you're Jewish, but it was like, kind of like, oh yeah. And it is that sort of, she also had to discover who we are. That I think you mentioning at the top that you didn't know who I was in this industry, and I don't expect anyone to know who I am, right? But I can tell you that I am a leader in this industry.
Yes.
I know what I have created and what did not exist before I came in 17 years ago, right? Just thinking about that woman who's like, woman in blue. All right. Sorry, we were at a conference and the person didn't know who I was. So she's like, woman in blue.
Moment of the conference.
It was fantastic. That was everyone texting me at the
She
same time.
raised her hand and she was like, yes, to the woman in blue.
Yeah. So, but it's okay that you didn't know who I was. That doesn't change anything. For me, I think I understood that you're gonna think I hate you, because I think a lot of people have that first impression of me.
On your
Whereas like
demeanor.
I don't think people realize that like there are other matchmakers who are there to be on vacation. There are other matchmakers that are there to, maybe learn something. I'm there for business. I'm there.
to get down to what needs to get done and get it done.
Yeah, I have certain goals in mind. I've got 5 days to do it, because then I got to run back and like
Move
input
on
that
to
in
the
there.
next
Yeah, I have other things happening. So it's like, that's what it was. And I apologize if I hurt your feelings. I sincerely do. And if I made you feel bad, sad, mad, but I hope you do know that now I do love you. So now I'm saying it to you now without you having to ask me.
Great podcast episode.
I do love you. And not only do I love you, I love you, the relationship you have with your husband. I love your kids.
Beautiful.
One of her kids thinks I'm Katy Perry.
No big deal.
Yeah. And I've invited you to special moments in
I was gonna say,
our
you just had
family's
Easter
life.
with
Yeah.
us,
Easter, my birthday. Like things I
saw
don't
pictures for
things I
Easter.
don't typically invite other people to. You know what I'm
course.
saying?
Family
Because I really respect Michal away from business. I like Michal as a person.
And more of a chosen family, celebrating family events with your family.
Sure. But you know what I also recognize in Michal, and I'm sure it's the same with you too, Amira, is it's that I could see the work being put in community.
Absolutely.
You know, like I know Mihal's business does not depend on me having to work.
Yeah.
There are other matchmakers though.
Who that's how the system
They depend
runs.
on me and Michal.
Right. For their
being in the
system
street.
to work.
Yeah.
Building our communities, and they're like, what can we get from you? And it's like, whoa, you know.
Right. And that your friendship and your relationship exists outside of that network.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot more in common that we realize, like, every time I hang out with you, and I actually like love hearing this story because I love that I elicited that reaction, you know, in someone that, like, at first people hate me and that I'm misunderstood, and I feel in many ways you're misunderstood. But the more I've gotten to know you, I see that you are someone where values are really, really strong, community and family values, and also the commitment to uplifting an industry and raising the standards. And I really respect that, and I think it's important. And yeah, a lot of people are going to watch a movie that's about to come out, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, I want to be a matchmaker too." And it's
I mean, holding that line in an industry,
training of it.
but I mean, you know, just peripherally holding that line in an industry like this that gets usurped or tries to be by the pop culture or whatever else over and over and over again, that's hard to do, you know. So, I mean, I'm not, at all a part of the world in which you work, but just trying to hold a line like that when the influence and the information that's coming to everybody before they come to you is guided by social media and the pop culture, you know, largely.
It's really shocking, though, how many of those businesses are all opening in New York. Because when I started out, I think it was like myself and 4 businesses. And then 10 years ago, it was, I want to say like 15.
Yeah.
And now it's something like 40.
Right. Yeah.
40 matchmaking services in New York City. And what's shocking to me is like, there's no need for matchmakers in other parts of this country? How are you all in the same little island?
I don't know, but so many people need help. So many people need help. And we're all so different.
Or do you think they're trying to tap a specific network?
Maybe. I don't know. I think there's enough of the pie to go around. Let's see. There keeps something, matchmakers popping up, and that's where we have to get really strong in our conviction of like how we do it and what we do. But I want to share something that I think is interesting, Maria, that I have always struggled with making rules. People are like, well, when do I have sex? Or when do I do this? And da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, rules of connection. Like, what are you talking about? But you're someone who is so good at making rules.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, from having read your book, though, you have done the work and you know yourself very well. Because I think making rules really comes down to your own boundaries. And if you don't know them, it's really hard to make rules, right? Because, rules imply you're just like, potentially arbitrarily following something. But if they're really embedded in your faith and values, it's not really rules. It's the way you just conduct yourself.
So I don't think of them as rules.
That's what I'm saying. It's the way you conduct yourself. That's my point. You just know yourself that well.
As like methods in how to make sense of your reality. So,
but what I think she's saying is you repeat them so well. You're very reliable in how you do them.
But
I think in able to do that, you have to know yourself so internally well.
I mean, I think that's gotten people really married. I would say is probably the 12-date rule.
The 12-date rule is
the rule.
It's insane how.
Oh, you mean like those actual dating rules?
Yeah.
No, like the 12-date rule method, don't have sex until you hit 12 dates, but there's Matchmaker Maria math.
Oh,
so
I got you. Sorry, I didn't understand the question you were asking.
It typically
specific to rules.
Yeah, it typically takes like 2 to 3 weeks because I consider phone dates, video dates, and in-person dates as dates. I don't count texting for anything. And the way that
because there's no connection.
Latched on to people. I mean, I've been saying it for such a long time. But we're talking about like, I don't know, maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people have gotten married using that.
Right.
Like, that's crazy to me that someone listened to a podcast or they did my course or they read the book or whatever it is. And they're like, okay, this is how I'm going to date from now on.
Right.
And it's all you're doing is delaying sex by like what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks max?
That's the rules.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
but because I've given them a framework.
Those rules. That makes sense. Yeah.
But because I've given them a framework of like,
you broke it down for them. There's organization to it for them.
Well, it's also trying to get people to snap out of how they've been dating. So for a lot of people, you meet online and then you take it to text and then you're having a whole texting meme relationship with this person that you don't really know. You don't know what they sound like. You don't know how they breathe. You don't know how they smell. You need to meet them in person. And you also need to talk to them on the phone or FaceTime them. And so when you start to kind of clarify that, listen, texting counts for nothing, suddenly the people that are doing this method, they're like, hey, I want to meet with you, but hey, do you want to do a FaceTime first before, and
Where you're going to get value. Yeah.
yeah, so
The
it's
tasks that
definitely
add
changed
value.
a
Kind
lot
of
of
rack
people.
on the hours.
Yeah, people do rack in the time.
Hours
It's so
well.
But I think with the 12 rules, that's what I was saying about the actionable tasks. Like that's the kind of the
Yeah.
guide that I was referring to within the book. Because you can talk about a lot of this in the dating world very amorphously or esoterically, but when you give people these direct tasks or these exercises throughout the book, the 12 rules, it's somehow digestible, something that you can actually follow and see outcomes change. You know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, the amount of men that have texted me in this past week, I've never been DM'd by this many men in my professional life. No, men never DM me, like maybe one or two here and there, but I have had men consistently DM me every single day because of one of the first exercises in chapter 4, where all I'm asking is, what do you bring to a relationship? I'm asking
That's an
men in
interesting
the
one.
book, what do you bring to a relationship? And they're like, oh,
Because it's a
I've never
question of-
thought of that.
I loved probably the part that I loved the most in the book was where you were talking about the gender norms and what's defined as masculinity.
Yeah, in chapter 3.
And, I mean, I think
That's
the
my favorite
first
chapter.
Well, oh my God, I was just about to say. So what I was about to say was, I think the first 2 chapters are wonderful because it's a lot contextual from the history and how you grew up and a lot about your family and the generational background.
Yeah.
But in 3, it gets good. Like
Yeah.
it really ties into where you can relate in your own life and which pieces you can take. And then 4 or 5, and it builds into the accountability and the
Right.
steps that are actionable. But I'd say for everybody who should read this book, 3, chapter 3, certainly by that point gives you a place to really latch into where you can apply it to yourself.
Absolutely.
The reality
Yeah,
we're all living in.
yeah,
I think that's
absolutely.
actually the biggest deal breaker now is everyone's living in very different realities, very hyper specific algorithms. I saw something terrible this past weekend that some teenagers had posted on TikTok. And I remember thinking when I looked at this, wow, I wonder what their algorithm looks like. Because it wasn't just one teenager, all these teenagers participating in a trend. And I remember thinking, I wonder what their algorithm looks like that they thought this was normal, that this wasn't like hurtful
all the time.
or inappropriate or,
What was their setup for normal that they contextualize this as appropriate? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, one of my favorite parts of your book was
wild.
the lids and the pots. That was my favorite part of the book.
Can I
Yes,
say
it was-
that out loud?
I don't know what page it was on. It was one of the gray boxes.
It's like
It's on
chapter.
so a lot
9,
of-
let's say later 9.
A lot of matchmakers, when we're asked, about how we work and stuff like that, and we talk about, lid for every pot, or sometimes you see a matchmaker success story and you're like, whoa, lid for every pot, and we believe that, right?
All right, ready? So in the book, there are interstitials, and they're called, it says, Ask Matchmaker Maria, and then there's a question and answer. I want you to know that I had 8,000 questions to choose from.
You're committed.
I could only pick like 25
Put
for
in the book, yeah.
And so these are
I love this
actual
one.
Questions
answers
from
that
it,
I've
yeah.
answered in the past, right? All right. Feeling discouraged about meeting someone great. How do I find the one? I fundamentally believe there's a lid for every pot, but ask yourself if you're in the right kitchen to find your match. Are you a female pot in a kitchen of exclusively pots? Can you go to a whiskey tasting or join a cornhole league where there might be a few lids? Or are you a male lid who spends more time talking with other lids about podcasts made by anti-pot lids than making pot friends? If I were still single today, I would get season tickets to my local sports team. And when I say local, I don't mean something splashy and personal like an NFL squad. I'm talking about the minor league baseball team hitting foul balls in your backyard. You'll see the same people regularly, and eventually get to know them. Maybe they'll have a single friend who's perfect for you. I'm annoyed that I didn't say maybe you'll find a single friend who's got a lid pot for you.
A pot that fits.
It was
a
so
lid that
good.
fits your pot.
Yeah.
It was so good.
But yeah, no, I love that part. It was funny because the book had to get cleared by like 7 different readers.
Of course.
And you could see like there were like two readers who were like, I don't get it. And I'm like, it's not your age group.
You're like, and also if you don't
Forget
get it, you need to do a little work.
But it's just like, they make all the readers be such wildly different demographics.
Demographics.
All single.
It's not there. You're not there.
No,
audience.
I had there were two people that were married.
Yeah.
One person was trans, one person everyone was different.
Because they want the feedback from the demographic.
Yeah. And so the two older people,
Yeah.
they're
It's like not for the
verbose. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean anti-pot lid podcast?
That's what I meant. Like they don't get it.
Oh my God, it was making my heart.
lingo.
You don't get it. You don't understand what's happening. It's
Well,
not
I
for
just
you.
want to recommend this book to people because, first of all, it is no nonsense, and two, like the breadth of knowledge that you have. Like her master's degree, like her thesis was about Eurovision. Like Maria knows so much about so much, and it all comes through like the history of the world in context of dating. And I think people, whether you're in a relationship or not, can get something out of it.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
If you're a
But
lid
I
or
also
a pot.
think that speaks to why you're exceptionally good at matchmaking, because again, I think a theme throughout this book is that a phenomenal matchmaker, really in reflection of your generational people before you, is it's an energy read, right? It's like personality matching is sort of what you were saying. Your generational energy, but you were saying it's personality typing. And your background in so many diverse things, I think also gives you just
Different skills.
Right. A different skill set,
I think
perspective.
I think in this industry, there is one thing that perhaps there's a few things that might set me apart, but like one of the things that I think I pride myself in is, look, there's a lot of matchmakers in industry who have a psychology background or they have a social work background. And I think that's really great. It can be very hard to run a business because you have to learn that you cannot help everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes when we have that sort of background, it's like, well, no, I want to help.
The boundaries
everyone.
to it all too.
Yeah, there is this sort of boundaries of like what I can take in my emotional bandwidth as well and my physical bandwidth of who I work with. But at the same time, I think that there is this diverse set of knowledge and like knowledge retainment that I have that, can be hard to find in any industry.
It's unique to you.
And
your
if
brain
I wasn't,
process.
I am at the point where like, if I wasn't a good matchmaker, then I would have been a great guidance counselor. If I wasn't a great guidance counselor, I would have been the best hairdresser. Like, I think in general, people who are very good at listening and understanding what the person is trying to tell you, like cut through it, can be very good at a job that does require really good listening.
Yes.
Hairdressers, guidance counselors, matchmakers.
But I will add specifically that it's also listening to what's nonverbal, right? So I think that what makes you exceptional when you're talking about the separate skill sets is I think that there's a uniqueness to people that do this well that are also reading the things that are not spoken.
Well, can I tell you something?
So you're reading body language and tone and, what's happening around somebody in their physical environment and so many other nonverbal forms of communication.
Yeah. Let me tell you something that changed my life. Okay, so agape is one of the main words for love in Greek, and Aristotle defined it as like the soul acknowledging another soul, right? The soul's recognition of another soul. Okay, so if you believe in that, this Aristotle definition, then I think you also have to believe in like the anti-agape, right? Which is like the person you're not supposed to know in this lifetime. Because I believe you can have multiple soulmates. I don't mean necessarily romantic. Like clearly you two are soulmates, right? You're best friends. You're supposed to be in each other's lives.
I understand what you mean by that.
Right.
It doesn't have to be necessarily
And I think kind of thinking in that way, that did change my life. I think it was it was in 2011. I met a potential match for a client. And within like 30 seconds, I was like, I'm not supposed to know this person. Like she is not supposed to be in my life. And she felt that energy too and was like, I think I'm going to go. Like literally 30 seconds in, I think I'm going to go. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And it was so interesting that rest of that evening, because it was completely open now. I was just like, what was that? And then after that, I just realized like, I don't have to give an energy to anybody. And I think to kind of go back to our first impression, to kind of bring it back, right? I never showed you indifference. Right? If I had shown you indifference, I think that's worse, which is like
not connecting or caring at all.
Yeah, of love, right? It's not hate.
I was about to say people always think that the opposite of love is hate, and I've said for the longest time it's not caring; it's indifference.
It's not caring, right?
It's no emotion at all.
I have no
love and
emotion
hate
for
are
this
very
person.
similar.
Why am I spending any more time? But with you, you did create an emotion, when I first met you, enough to be like curious about you, to be like, what is this girl doing in Philly? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think that really understanding that in 2011, when I was like, I think 26 or 27, that really changed my life. Understanding that, like, you know what? There are just people that I'm going to meet.
They're going to spark an interest, and they're going to be people that you have no interest in connecting to whatsoever.
And there's people in our industry where I've met them and I'm like, cool.
But you see, the difference is that I feel like someone like you has those boundaries and knows them and listens to them.
Yeah.
And then other people could feel it, maybe know it, feel the insight, and think for some other reason to keep going. It's just paying attention to those things and listening.
Not forcing.
So I'm going to have Maria just one last tip for the people.
Yeah.
And can you wrap
Yeah,
this up?
I have, I want to write something I wrote, but yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, we're ready for you. Just one last tip for the people about connection. Just like one last thing you want to share.
Okay. So I challenge anyone who's currently listening or watching this that if you really want to participate in your community, the best way to do that is to go to your local YMCA or your local JCC and challenge yourself to do 5 things, or even your local temple. Challenge yourself to go 5 things in the next 5 weeks that are listed in their program. That could be a swimming class, a backgammon class, a sewing class, a cooking class, a lecture. You can also check out your public library. There are things that are within a 10-mile radius of your house that exist that are happening without you. So you show up, they won't make a difference to them, but it will make a difference if you show up.
That's right.
So I think if you really want to change your life, challenge yourself to go 5 times in the next 5 weeks to something happening in your community where you could see the people that live around you consistently, because that is how we build the foundation of our community. That's how we know what's happening. We're all concerned about what's happening, politically in other parts of the world. Be concerned also about your own neighborhood.
I think
that's where change really happens.
If you want to find your person, find your people.
Yeah.
All right, you ready, honey?
I just read a little blurb I wrote about the book, actually. Can I do that?
Oh, you wrote something?
Oh, ready.
Someone came prepared. Go
I
ahead.
did. I wrote all the way over here. I didn't
She's
really.
going to read her review out loud.
Is that okay? I did not have this approved. You don't know I'm doing this. Okay.
Her bag of tricks.
I'm going to take it all in, though, because I'm a words of affirmation person.
Okay, you ready for it? Okay, well, because these were my, gut feelings.
Yeah.
Okay. Ask a Matchmaker is about more than just surface matchmaking. It's really about serving and understanding yourself, and that matchmaking is an art. Matchmaking is fundamentally personality typing and deeply considers a person's temperament. Matching based on energy as well as the typical considerations that you would expect. Author Maria uses great personal, historical, cultural, and pop movie TV references throughout her book to describe the relationship between a matchmaker and a client, set framework for expectations, and discuss dating culture, including the impact of online dating shifts in technology and examples of toxic versus wholesome masculinity. My favorite part of the book, actually. I think you break it down so beautifully. And it's very relatable with a few, just the right amount of workshop style exercises that really add great value. It sheds light on self-talk, internal honesty, and shifting your perspective. We are geared to filters and checklists, while we should be focusing on what makes us feel good, authentic, and supported. Maria is certainly not shy about her opinions or her political views. But no matter your political leanings, everyone seeking love and open to change can gain something special from this book. Ask a Matchmaker is a fun, personal, and playful, while appropriately academic, evidence-based, interactive, and experience-supported take on dating. It's a great tool providing steps from surveying and understanding yourself to connecting to others, learning how to build dating skills, to growing and cultivating your community. While the book certainly sells the advantages to hiring a matchmaker, this is the best part, it's also an actionable guide to self-reflection and self-growth.
Yeah.
Really, how to better pick for yourself, right? If you pay attention, do the work, get involved, be accountable, and stay open.
Yeah.
Oh, you better put that on Amazon.
Yeah.
That was really good.
That's just like what I took.
I love it.
Thank you for being here, Maria.
I didn't even read it. I just wrote it this way.
That was so cool.
That's my end.
Thank you.